So the project has taken almost 2 years. The cost that they've charged in the first 12 months was 12.75% cost of finance. The synopsis of all of these problems is debt lenders in the market, right? And how they are at the moment. They're trying to charge us 25.44% annualized. And the worst part of it is it's compounding monthly every month you run over. I came to the conclusion, let's just get the site done, get it to the point of refinance, and at that point really, share my feelings. This can't go on. If you're doing this to everyone that rolls over, how are you ever going to be in continuous business? The problem I have is I'm more than happy paying delayed fees because I know they might have a loan book that they're reporting to, but I feel that this is daylight robbery. They're basically absolutely capitalizing. It's almost like they'd rather make double off me off this deal and never do business with me again.
Welcome back, episode 92 of the Ground Up Podcast. We're going to be diving straight in today, but for any new viewers who don't know who we are, we're 4 property developers based in the UK. We run multiple businesses, do hundreds of millions of pounds of property development, and every week we get around a mic and we chat shop about our businesses, the market, and key topics that we think may be interesting to you. We have Jack Jiggins, we've got Stuart Wyeth, Dorian Payne, and myself, Ryan Beaumont. And today we're going to hash through some recent challenges that we're going through, some wins as well, and then we're going to hit some key topics. One of them being Mr. Trump himself, who has banned institutional investors from house buying in the US and the impacts that may have on the UK. So stick around. It's going to be juicy. But let's start with some challenges, boys. Let's start negative. Jack Jiggs, how is Bismet? Have you got any challenges you want to share?
So I've just got back from 3 days skiing. 4 or 5 days skiing.
It's going up and up.
I have actually felt that there's quite a lot of, whether it's bad business management on my part, but there's just a lot falling on my shoulders at the moment. And I actually pretty struggled to get that work-life balance. The only reason I booked this ski trip is I'm supposed to be going away again first week of Feb, and the wife's coming back from the US after that trip. So I was like, well, if she's not here, I could get away for a weekend. Bad decision because a lot's going on. Beginning of the year, definitely a learning going forward. Either get your ducks in a row. I'm a big believer that you should be in control of your destiny, or don't go away. But yeah, I've got a meaningful, costly challenge actually. So we developed a site which is cluster flats, and we managed to go back into planning for another unit. So we increased the value of the site by about £350,000, which was about 30% on the site. It's only a small site, and essentially, in doing so, we had it was just really difficult to negotiate with the debt lender. So a standard challenger bank. I'm not actually going to reveal today who they are because they've got a chance to recover and prove that they're a good lender. But maybe I think they've got an opportunity to swing, change their attitude or not. So I'll either shout them out for being good and pragmatic now, or I'll do the opposite. So make sure you tune into future episodes for an update on this particular lender. But essentially, the way that their terms are set in the product is we have overrun on the project, but we've added so much value. So my view is I shouldn't be punished to deliver a better scheme. And we haven't asked for more money. All we've asked is just for an extension to deliver the additional unit. And we've now finished. So we're ready to refinance and we're keeping the site. And the cost that they were charging us in the first 12 months, the project has taken almost 2 years. The cost that they've charged in the first 12 months was 12.75% cost of finance. In the last 12 months, and there was a bit of a delay, hands up, to refinance, the lawyer that's representing the new bank, I mean, the synopsis of all of these problems is debt lenders in the market, right? And how shit they are at the moment, has taken 8 months to refinance. But there was bits where we're finishing off, filling the rooms, blah, blah, blah. But the debt lender we bought it with, on paper, it was 12.75% for the first year. We asked for a significant extension to deliver the works that we needed. We tried to communicate that. They weren't coming back to us. We couldn't get hold of anyone. they actually paused drawdowns. So we then had to cash flow it ourselves. And this was not even drawdowns for any new money. It was just a facility that had already been agreed. So it was kind of like, we've made the site less risky for them. The loan to value's dropped. We're still willing to spend the additional money ourselves to deliver the fifth unit. And they've sent a redemption statement, and I worked out the annualized rate of the cost of finance the last 12 months, not including like admin fees, book management fees that they charge for site visits, and they charge for obviously all the title stuff to redeem the loan and an exit fee. So not including any of that normal stuff that would have been in the facility. And trying to charge us 25.44% annualized, which when you work, and the worst part of it is it's compounding monthly every month you run over.
Was that excluding those fees?
Excluding that's just the cost of finance fees. And I've kind of sent quite a pragmatic email already in Q1 last year saying, we need an extension. I've tried to contact all these people. This is absolutely ridiculous. I can't even get through to anyone. So how am I supposed to work with you here? And then they kind of acknowledged it, and then we got through, and they said, look, we'll give you 3 months. And I was like, that's not really enough. Like, you're not really hearing what I'm saying. And I came to the conclusion, let's just get the site done, get it to the point of refinance. And at that point, really, share my feelings. And this is a really well-known lender in the industry, which is quite a small industry. Like I would have said, I probably know 30% of their loan book per year recurring. Like they're quite a fairly big lender. And I've just basically had a go at them. I've just gone, I pay less for mezzanine or unsecured finance, and you're supposed to be a debt lender. This can't go on. If you're doing this to everyone that rolls over, how are you ever going to be in continuous business? Yeah. And the problem I have is I'm more than happy paying delayed fees because I know they might have a loan book that they're reporting to, but I feel that this is daylight robbery. They're basically absolutely capitalizing. It's almost like they'd rather make double off me off this deal and never do business with me again than maybe go, well, let's split the difference and hopefully you can see that we've been favorable and then do business with us. So that material cost is about 100 grand in additional costs to where I think it should be. And obviously I'm going to.
That's a tough pill to swallow, that isn't it?
And it's difficult because I want to say, I go to events where you're there. I know a lot of people that use you, and it's not going to take a lot to be like, never touch them. But I don't really want to lead with that because I actually feel that there's business duty there. For every time we do a survey and something goes wrong, I feel like there should be a realistic conversation to make sure the customer's happy and the business is happy. Obviously, and I feel that the debt lending market is one of the only industries, and potentially lawyers, where the customer care is not just there at all. There's some lenders that are good, but yeah, I mean, very few.
Would you guys agree though that for anybody going into a finance deal, it's so easy to not, even though you do think about the downside, because I agree with you, Jack. This happened to me as well, and I had an issue on a site ages ago, and I told, this is when I used private finance and debt finance, and they looked like there was going to be a delay, which is quite common in the development world because it's very complex. I think all of us here have done developments where probably most of the ones we've done have been later. They've delayed compared to where we originally thought they were going to finish. Either that or I'm just terrible, one of them. But the lender basically said, oh yeah, no, okay, we hear you. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we understand. We're still going to charge you 2% a month default late fee though. Oh, great. Just yeah.
Thanks. What do you think, Jack? Do you think there should be some kind of mandate at the start built into the terms where if you do manage to add value in any way, and ultimately you're reducing risk for the lender at that point if they don't move their LTV, do you think there should be some kind of mandate to say that there should be a reassessment or revaluation on not only the facility amount, but also the borrowing terms, the duration? Do you feel like that should be something that you can either negotiate on the front end if you see there's opportunity to add value?
So I think so we obviously have a financial ombudsman, and they will monitor a fair duty of care to make sure that people aren't getting pillaged for a double the cost. If let me give you an example. Let's say Stuart is delivering a loft for someone, and they deferred a payment because of various reasons. Let's just say, their nan died, and they deferred it 3 months. Do you think he should righteously, let's say the loft was £80,000, do you think he should righteously then charge £175,000?
He's not a bank. He can't get away with it.
Exactly. Like, it's not fair. So I think that it's just a lot of aggravation, and I completely understand that lenders are often borrowers, so they've got to kind of mirror the repercussions of their lending arm. I think there should be transparency in that. So I think we should be able to see what they may get penalised by.
They'll just say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, because I've literally been through this with clients on delivery contracts with funders, literally, a few times. They'll just refer back to, you signed it in the contract. It's in the terms. You signed it. You signed it. It's it's in the terms you sign. They can charge you a default rate, and they don't have to consider any extra value.
This is why I'm suggesting that in the terms, as you start out, if you can have a provision for, if I find extra value, which is going to delay the site and extend the term, then there's an agreement to reassess the impacts of that, so that it can be remunerated as opposed to penalised. Like, is that something that you think you could add into terms, Jack? Do you think you can negotiate that? Is that even possible?
You're not going to change the terms. I've read through all of their documents late last night, and there is details around. I mean, it's obviously very unreversible for the borrower. That's strategically how they if you look at extension, it's like 16 pages about how they charge you when you extend, and there's no way about it, and it's all discretionary to them. But there is a clause in it, unless it's previously agreed with enough notice between both parties. But I couldn't even do that. I couldn't get hold of someone for 6 months, which makes me wonder, like, if I literally said we're ready to redeem now, I felt like they didn't really care. So I was like, well, I've done what I can. I can only now. I'm the developer. All I can do is finish the site. I'm happy to actually name and shame another lender that I had a similar situation with, because they didn't act pragmatically on it, which was Hope Capital. We had a much larger loan on a site. We needed an extension, and it was because our lawyer didn't do a title requisition from the acquisition. So we were refinancing this lender out. We got to the point of refinance, and we realized that my lawyer hadn't done the title requisitions, and then they'd gone bust. So now I'm in a position where I can't sue a lawyer, and I need to buy some time. So I asked our new lawyer, I said, how long do you need for this? And they said 6 weeks. So I went back to the lender, and fair play, they did communicate, and they said, well, if you need 6 weeks, it's going to cost you like 2%. And if you need 3 months, it's going to cost you 4%. And I said, well, I think we only need 6 weeks. It then went like 3 days over the 6-week program. They then charged us they didn't even charge us the 4%. They charged us a surcharge of 5% and 2% a month for 2 months. So the delta of that is that 5% of the total loan, which was £50,000, was purely just because there was something out of my control. Obviously, in hindsight, as a business owner and learning, I should have paid more and bought more time. But again, I've got another issue where I've got a lawyer that's not. So we're just people that pass people down the line, and we're going, we'll sign up to definitely being there at 8 a.m. And then you realise you've got to bring the local school, and they just can't get organised, and it's very difficult because you can't control that. And I feel that there should be the stats are, the writing is on the wall. Only like 20% of developers last past 8 years of trading, and the main reason is delays, which cause cash flow issues. So why isn't there support for developers to have a pragmatic view to support projects when we can show, look, these are the reasons they're delayed. And then the lender goes, actually, none of this is your fault. You've been pragmatic. You've done what you need to do. Let's potentially agree a structure that sort of resolves this. So I think that the sort of learning for any listeners out there is having a relationship manager that has your back in the growth of your business, not in that one deal, is really important. Don't always rely on brokers to place the right money, because you could be borrowing from a dodgy dealer that's disguised, a wolf in sheep's clothing, or you could be borrowing from someone that's actually a pleasant lender and wants to do continuous business with you. And it just kills me. Like, how is having run businesses where I have clients, it kills me that there's trading businesses out there where if someone calls me up and go, I don't like my survey, I could just go, it's done now. Read the T's and C's, your problem, not mine. I would never do that in a million years. And it kills me. If someone's a absolute nose and trying to get more than it's worth, and we've actually delivered on our T's and C's and they may haven't understood the spec, we will still, even if they're in the wrong, we will still help them. So it just kills me.
Yeah. Unlucky, mate. What about you?
On that, quickly, on that, just having a good business development manager. These challenger banks, they're like the Wild Wild West. And I think when I said in our presentation when we done the Ground Up Live, is I'd really just like to try and use as much private finance as possible. Obviously, on the smaller deals, it's just sometimes not worth the headache. And the borrowing we've done so far, we've been so lucky in terms of the relationships there, because we've had extensions of time, and they can take a view and they can work with you, and they sort of value your business in the future. But I don't know, I'm interested to find out who that is, Jack, offline, because it's things like that you need to avoid, because if that's their short-term view, do you really want to give their business to them anyway? And since these challenger banks got involved and it's all PGs, they're stacked in their favor. The extension of times, they're preying on other developers to go wrong, for them to make as much money as they can out of them.
I suppose an easy route to help. And I actually there's a broker I know who's really successful business owner broker, also set up a group of businesses offering other services, including accountancies, and they do all of our accountancy for our groups, the 30 plus companies. But I know the owner of the business, really sharp guy. And I was telling him about this, and he was like, we should just set up like a Glassdoor group privately, no lenders are involved, where you just say bad experiences that you've had, it populates it, so it's avoid these lenders, and we get them back. And I was like, that is a great idea.
Ground Up Network, baby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we share. Like behind closed doors, I can say who's good, bad, and indifferent. So it's a little bit easier.
We can have a list, innit? Have a list, right? That helps people know.
Sometimes it doesn't matter about the rate. It's all about the service and relationship. And you want to be able to pick up the phone and go, "We've had this issue. Can you help?" And that's so much more important than an extra 25 basis points, an extra 0.5% on a deal. Or
completely agree. We're never rate. That's another key learning. We're never rate driven. It's always process and proactivity. Yeah.
What about you, Stu?
Well, I mean, even with brokers, I've got a broker who's causing me a bit of a problem at the moment, and it's they take you for granted. And I've even got a decorator. I've got so many issues, mate. Even when we go through challenges, it's been a real shit start to the year. Talking about having like the most relaxed Christmas ever, just totally chilled, and then boom, it's hit me like a frying pan on the back of the head this week and last week. But like the decorator I use, lovely guy. Clearly didn't make as much profit on the previous conversion. Really stuck it in. We asked him for tenders. One of the lessons I've learned is programming and procurement. Like we've got a contractor's QS. The development side's pretty good. We're making a developer margin, but at the cost of some of the contractor's margin. And it's really a real shame when you set everything up and you spend all this money for working drawings and you try and stick to a program. The program change. We've not been on it as much as we need to be in terms of like weekly meetings on site, because so many delays can happen on bespoke stuff. On a bespoke project like Twickenham, we're going to do a live tour as well for the Ground Up Network in a few weeks' time. Looking forward to going through these in more detail, but to skim on the surface, procurement and programming, we need to work a lot more on that to make sure we can sharpen up, because we use a lot of direct labour as well. We've obviously categorised each day of what the direct labour have done, but we've not actually worked out what tasks they've been doing. And because it's such a complicated site, we've had to move all the goods in and goods out, and every piece of ply, every bit of insulation flooring has to be manually moved because it's just such a restricted site. We've not captured that in the program. We've not captured that on site to track the costs. So it's difficult. I'm feeling super confident pricing the next big lump with good access, with everything else, because I think we'll be probably over where we need to be. But that's something that we need to look at, is actually how to time track the people who are direct labour and how much direct labour we need on site versus sub-direct labour, because we've spent a shitload more than we anticipated. But I think a lot of that's down to the access and logistics of running this particular site. The review of specifications, like Jack was saying there with finances, when you've got a site, you're buying a site without planning, you get planning, you get your stage 4, you want to get boots on grounds and get going straight away. That has repercussions as well, because you then don't have time to fully understand the stage 4 drawings and look at alternatives. We can look at a scheme, look at a detail, sign it off, we get our quotes in, and then it comes in, and then we've spent 4 times more than we wanted to on the installation that's been spec'd, where there was 3 or 4 alternatives. There's different flooring between floors we could have used, where we're like, why have we done that? And it's because it's too late in the process to change it, where all this stuff can be captured. But the second you get planning, stage 4's done, and we go. And it's so difficult when you're in a bridge or dev finance to try and structure it. I still think we're, again, because the amount of money we're paying in interest it makes sense to just get on with it and just pay a premium for these things and just learn for it on the next one. But yeah, no, there's loads of learnings on that site, which we're going to sort of strip apart, which is the fun part, to be honest, because that's the discipline you need in business. Is if you've done something, you've done your best, you take the lessons you learn, and then you change your process and do another one. So, but yeah, apart from that,
we've said multiple times on this podcast that obviously when you're starting out, especially the first dev, if you can just make it through and not get killed, then it's the learning lessons that are super valuable to future margins. But that's just an ever moving target, right? Because with development, you could take on multiple different types of sites that have a first time kind of cause that you maybe haven't come across before. And as long as you learn something and get out the other side, then it just sharpens your acumen, doesn't it?
That was a mistake that we did. We definitely, I think, and that's why I always say you shouldn't try to do multiple sites at the time when you've not done them. But the other thing is new methodologies. So at one point, we were in the early days, we were simultaneously doing timber frame, masonry, steel frame, concrete frame, SIP panels, and 4 out of 5 of those we've never done before. so it was
a lot
you
of
were
lessons
doing
to
all
learn there,
that.
mate.
Oh, yeah, but you need the cash to get out of those lessons, because as you say, Stu, then when the margin goes down because of a lesson, it's great if you can learn from it and go again.
People listening to that, D, would and listen to what we've just said there, will go, oh, but I don't want to go through all that work, all that effort, what can be like a 2-year process to not make any money. But this is a slow pound game, right? This is about lasting the 7 years, building up your legacy, building up your acumen, your resource team, everything, so that in the 8th, 9th, and 10th year, you can actually make some serious money. And I think a lot of people come into development not understanding that.
20-year plan, 20-year game plan. Come on, think like the Japanese do. They got 100 years business plans. That's what we're talking about. You know, they don't talk in 6 months. They talk in centuries.
Yeah.
But
Slow
Stu,
pound game.
I got 2 things just to add. This, firstly, what Stuart's talking about, we opened a pre-construction department specifically for that reason. What we was doing, we was getting planning and getting straight onto site. And we're a partnerships house building company, but effectively we deliver under design and build. We do all the design and build. But really, what we were doing build and design, and that is so we were doing the inverse of what we should have done. And so learned all those lessons. Realized we're leaving so much money on the table because we're doing exactly what Stuart's doing. We're putting the wrong materials in, double the price for the same pound of sale, and the contractor's margin goes down instantly, and it always ends up really low. The only way to get around it is literally by doing your planning and having pre-construction for developing REBA stage 4 and doing early stage procurement, especially for key packages, then getting on site. So when you're on site, you've got like 70% of your procurement done. All your working drawings have been done, red penned. Your value engineering with materials has been done, and you've got your material call off schedule. You're literally you still have issues, but you can save so much money doing that, and that you're doing it now, Stu.
Just to touch on that from a non-construction run business, because we obviously bring in the construction. What Dorian's saying also from a developer's perspective, when you're going through a project and you're borrowing money, if you have delays later, that money is that lump sum, that quantum that you're borrowing is greater. So the more organized you are and the sharper you get that draw. So when you draw the funds, if you get the project done quicker, like 2 months quicker, 6 months quicker, whatever it may be, you're borrowing that large quantum of costs for less time. So not only does it help you in the delivery and in the construction and save you time, it's also saving you huge amounts of money. The goal of a developer is to get that curve of borrow from a finance perspective as sharp as you possibly can. So obviously, quick build and then quick exit. What we're talking about is slow build if you do delivery, and then slow exit is what will break you.
The exact opposite of what we were talking about at the start of this episode, which is we'll ask you for extensions of time. I mean, that is the realistic thing. It's that it costs you more in every part, so you have to learn it and take the pain to get through them. But I was just thinking as well, just before you started talking there, Jack, I was thinking exactly the same. Jack's just the developer part, which I'm blessed that we've got levers in the construction part to go, fuck, we want to change something. It's just down tools and stop. We've got a steel supply, bespoke steel staircase. We've got water connections, which couldn't be done till we dug the holes, and we should have done them a lot earlier in the schedule, and the program missed it. And there's so many bits that we can learn from that would have saved us 3 months. And then those bits Jack was saying there, it's cost us a fortune. It's a tough old game. People think that everyone makes a load of money in development.
One of the episodes, I'll pull up a scheme that's like a new build, and it's program, and it has about 1,000 lines in it. We want to, but it'd be worth us just going from top to bottom, because we do the construction as well, just talking about the different steps in a delivery of a project that maybe has enabling, like demolition through to groundworks, superstructures, internals, to even snagging. People forget about snagging, but I'm telling you, if you're doing 20 flats, snagging will take you ages.
Snagging's cost us the most money of all the phases of work. Snagging has cost us by a ridiculous amount. Snagging's cost us the most money. It is like,
It's weird. Decorators lose their money, Stu, as well. It's probably what he's upset about.
Talking about this program, then, from a construction and a design and build perspective, what is the very first thing all you guys do?
What? So, what do you mean?
So you see a site come on, it's got consent, and you've bought it. What is the very first thing in your program?
Well, if it's already got an existing building on site, it'd be all about disconnections and making safe, ready for contamination, like asbestos removal, ready for demolition. That because you kind of like when you do a conversion, your stage one is all a strip out phase. You've probably got a strip out phase, whilst then you've got the main piece of works. It's the same with new build. You've got the enabling phase, then you've got the main piece, the main works. That's like they're kind of two separate things in one.
From a design perspective, I'd say the first thing we do, if we just bought something, because this has happened to us so many times, where digital surveys aren't always accurate, particularly when things are hidden behind suspended ceilings and cavity walls and things like that. We'd want to make sure that the designs that we're going to start doing all the schematics to are accurate. So go in, take all the sense check dims, do some exposing work, and make sure those steels are actually there as we thought they would be. Like, get the schematics as accurate as possible. Then that allows the regs to actually start, because the amount of times we've done regs and it's like, oh, actually that wall isn't there, or that steel is actually 200 mil higher or over in this direction, causes a ball ache later.
I'd say for mine would be site setup. So I'll be thinking about access in, access out, how we're going to build this site, where we're going to put welfare, everything, how we're going to get every bit of material to and from that site. Is it buildable? And then, prelims, and then it'll be utilities, I think, first. Get the site prepped. The easy bit's sticking board on the wall.
Yeah. To be fair, like, because I was assuming the site was planning and a lot less, but really it's all, even before anything goes on the ground, it is that planning phase that we were just talking about. Because there's that famous quote from Abraham Lincoln, is that if I need to chop down a tree, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. And it literally is what most people don't do, including us. We didn't, and we've really tried to put that into place.
My answers are almost identical to Stu's. We do a light strip to delist the building and get exposure to the fabric of the building, so that we can start pulling together the tender pack. And then the most important one for us is actually Thames Water. Some Thames Water connections are taking like 20 months. So if we've
20,
in our Princess Risborough scheme, I think our connections took 20 months. We had the site. We PC'd the site in 12 months, and we'd sold all the units. We're hounding
no water,
hounding them. Like you wouldn't
with a watering can for a shower.
We had one person every day. All we were doing was, drive into Thames Water in a newly bought tank that we had bought. And we lost all the sales because we couldn't get the connections. And it's not like we could put a Jenny on site and give the whole site electricity and get the completions over the line. It was an absolute nightmare. We lost all the sales and we had to resell them all again.
Do you know what we got that issue now? Is we've got a 20 mixed housing and apartment development site. We have completed 94% of the works of the scheme value. 94% is complete. So as you could imagine, all the buildings are up, and most of the internal, well, all the internals are done. Yeah, 94% done of the entire job. And we had to mothball the site probably about 2 and a bit months ago, 3 months ago, because we cannot get the final connection in play. And literally the site is closed. It's like a ghost town. And then there's now these rumors circulating on Facebook and stuff. It's like it's mad what happens when the public are left to their own assumptions. I don't know how these rumors start, but obviously people down the pub say, "Oh, have you seen that over there?" Yeah, it is. They've got like either massive.
Dorian,
massive...
you know what you want to do. You want to get 2 big billboards out the site. One of them says slight delays in the project due to whatever your local water is, and then put another sign next to it saying open for inquiries, and put the water board's number on the billboard. So they're going to keep going, why is everyone ringing us?
Well, D, what about you, mate? What about what's a challenge recently or something you're dealing with?
I'm like Stuart, to be honest with you. Like normally every Christmas is very intense for me. I plan a lot, I think a lot, I try to stay ahead and stuff. And then this year I spent more time with the family, and it was more relaxing than ever before. I even found time to basically do painting whilst listening to audiobooks. I did my business plan and all that sort of stuff. And then January has felt like, if Stuart's been hit in the back of the head with a frying pan, somebody's hit me in the back of the head with like an anchor, like the Looney Tunes cartoon where they drop anchors from the cliff, yet somehow survive. Honestly, I don't know what's happened, but everything that could go wrong in January has gone wrong. And so, I mean, I had to pick one challenge, and I don't even know where to start. So I suppose I got a question for Stuart, because how do you get through those times, Stu, where instead of everything you touch turns to gold, everything you touch turns to ash?
Yeah, crumbles. I was just saying before we jumped on, so I've had 2 hours sleep last night. I'm so wound up. I was working till late. I didn't get in till about 8 o'clock last night, and then done a quote because it was a lovely customer. I think we're good for the business. Then I've done what I didn't realise. Didn't read the Gusto menu, so it was a full Sunday lunch at 9 o'clock at night. So I'm doing stewed apples, and I'm doing pork meatballs and root veg, and I'm trying to do this. The missus is trying to clean the house up because the kids on a Wednesday at home, and it's just a disaster.
A stewed apples, stew doing apples.
Stew doing apples, yeah. Anyway, it was. I didn't read the recipe. I just thought it was meatballs and some vegetables, and it wasn't. It was, it was grow your own apples. It took way too long. Anyway, it got to like midnight. I'm still wound up. Got to like 4 a.m, and I'm just trying to take some sleeping tablets to get a few hours in. And I could have easily laid in bed this morning. And guys, sorry, I've got to roll over. I'm knackered. I've got 5 sales appointments today. I've got an issue with a staff member. I've had to instruct a barrister this week, choosing between 3 of them. I can't go into it at the moment. And I've got a structural issue, which is going to cost me probably about 30 grand. It's a bloody pain in the ass. It has to be sorted. So yeah, it's been a shit start to the year. But I was just laying in bed thinking, come on, boy, you got this. Let's get in the shower. And I was still the first one here. Ryan had to let me on the ground up, and I thought Dorian did say 7 o'clock to start, but it's just like, with the bags under your eyes, we're made of different stuff, and I think that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I totally believe that. I watched a podcast where I know some ex-SAS guy was like, "It's a problem, good. It's a fucking problem, good." And everything is just good, because what are you going to go at the back of it? Like Jack said offline before, he said, these problems I'm going through in a year's time, they won't even be in the mind. The grey cloud can come over you. You just got to give it time and persistence. The grey cloud passes, and you're back in the game. So, yeah. So apart from trying to stay alive, cash flow issues, family demands, we just stuck it up. But I said to Charlotte on Sunday, I was like, we could just can this off, close off the last jobs, have a modest life, enjoy what we've got done. And she looked at me and went, "It'd be fucking boring now," and it would be. And that was it. We crack on. So you got to have a supportive partner, and you got to be a bit insane to do what we do. But gets us out of bed in the morning, I guess.
And that's a good point, because I've been asked. I don't know. Like, we are wired away, because I don't care what anyone says. My team can attest to it. My wife can attest to it as well. So the pressure and stress, because as well, is in our nature to push things to breaking point. Yeah, lovely. Look at that. That's a great gift, Jack. Whoever bought you that, he's a legend.
What does it say? It's not over when you lose it. It's over when you quit. Yeah.
When you quit. And basically, I get up as well, like Stuart, and every day I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, come on, you've just one foot in front of the other. And I do what Jack says. I think to myself, because it was like, that's a stoic thing. It's, the problems I'm dealing with today, will they be a problem in a year? And 99% of the time, they won't be. The ones that are still a problem within a year, or could be a problem in a year, you just have to resolve and get through. But most of them, you get through, they won't be an issue in a year. And you've got to remind yourself that. But sometimes it feels like, just through unfortunate circumstances, everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and everything that should have happened isn't happening. And I don't know. I've done a personality test recently, part of Business Leader, and I think I shared it in the group. Did I share it in the group with you guys?
You did, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's something, I've done lots of different personality tests, and this is a different one, and I'm getting my team to do it as well, the management team. And what is that personality test called? Is something Clifton
We'll put it in the
Strengths?
show notes.
Yeah, put it in the show notes. Clifton Strengths, and basically it summed me up my 10 top strengths. And apparently you should focus on your strengths, and just get people around you to complement your weaknesses, rather than really trying to work on your weaknesses, because it's just too hard. And the summary of my personality is, because I put it through ChatGPT as well, and asked, because it's quite a big report, and I asked it to summarize what I am, and it basically said, it sounds big-headed, but it isn't. I am a high drive, future oriented executor with authority. I think big, I decide, act, and push. And basically, that probably just sums it up, is that's what drives that. I just keep thinking about the future, and keep trying to get through, one foot in front of the other, and think about that. And that's how I do it. But it's fucking solid. It is solid.
Yeah, I'd resonate with that. That if I'm going through difficulties or the struggles in the business, and me and my dad have always said this, as a bit of a way to joke and laugh about how we can get through problems, is we just need to sell more. Like that's what drives me, because that fuels growth. And if you can sell your way out of a situation, that it seems silly, but that is the only answer to fundamental business problems, as long as you are focusing on actually fixing the underlying ops issue. But the sales is how you get out of problems. It's the same way a country gets out of debt. You've got to grow GDP.
Yeah.
That's the way you get out of it, right?
It's funny you say that. There's a friend of mine, and he, I think I said it before. He's quite a challenging environment. He's had a business before, not really worked out. He's had to take a job. He's moved to like a remote area because of children and stuff like that. And he's surrounded by people who are like smaller thinkers. Job, just stay in your lane. Don't put your neck above the parapet. And he's normally a really big visionary thinker, bigger than me, and he's just not managed to execute on it. But then he rang me up and he's like, oh, I've decided, I'm going to take a part-time job, and I'm going to. His way of getting out of things was reducing, and I just said, why are you thinking so small? Like, what's happened to your thinking? You're thinking so small. You're going backwards. You're going to box yourself in even worse than you're in now. And then he came back to me the next day. Well, he actually sent me a message, and he's like, mate, thanks for that. I needed to hear that. Again, I'm just surrounded by small. I think that was the advice he was getting from everyone around, and started to believe it was true. Fast forward to now, that was only a few months ago. He's having meetings with businesses about acquiring multi-million businesses, back in his element again, where he could probably pull it off. And if he pulls it off, straight away he's gone to owning a business or being involved in a business that's turning over millions and has a multi six-figure EBITDA figure. But wrong environment as well also keeps you down. Would you say that's right?
Yeah. Perspective, or who's feeding your perspective is big. Yeah, but yeah, you can also get led down the garden path as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that being around the right people and making the right decisions. There's nothing wrong with taking a step back, reevaluating, rebuilding, and going again. It's a bit like an army, right? You can fight. If you're losing too many men, you've got to retreat, recalibrate, work out what's going wrong, and then attack again. You can't go balls deep and just try and double down the size of the business because of a problem. I don't think. I think that will just
No, you will
spread
get
too
stuck in
thin,
the mud.
and the cracks will happen everywhere. So there's a bit of a balance in doing that. But yeah, the principles of don't give up and grow yourself out of a problem is a good one.
Yeah. All right, let me feed you. I'll feed you my one, guys, because mine's a bit of a blend. I haven't. Sorry to say, I haven't had a. I've had a great start to the year, to be honest. Still a lot of challenges, as that I just accept that those challenges will continuously keep happening as long as they don't repeat the same exact problem. But because we're just growing quickly, there's always going to be things that like kinks in the armor. But a challenge. I've got a bit of an emergency right now. It's kind of like it's been crisis stations this week for good reasons, because our sales guys are absolutely flying. They are like off the charts flying. They've tripled the performance of last month to this month because their pipelines are stacking and stacking and stacking. And particularly for the buy to let refurb. So we went from doing an average of 7 a month in the last quarter of last year. And they've already done 17 this month, and they'll be at about 20 by the month's end. Literally every day there's a new close getting over the line. But what that means is that's 20 sites plus an already 20 deep conveyancing pipeline plus 14 we're already on site with. That's all going to fucking tidal wave onto itself for operations. So at the start of this week, I went, cool, battle stations, build out a bit of a deck for what we need to do. How can we pull this back, and not pull it back in terms of growth, but how can we strip back our ops to be built for this type of scale? Because I just didn't expect it to happen this quick. This was meant to happen by sort of summertime. So what I've done is brought in an ops manager who came in yesterday for an interview. Now, this is a 90 grand package kind of guy that I need to suddenly bring into this business, and I'm bringing him in 3-4 months early because I want him to come in, strip apart how we currently operate that business, which is a lot of internal trades, a couple subcontractors, and 2 site supervisors with an admin, and it's very week to week at the moment. What I want to do instead is bring in this ops manager who's basically a contracts manager. He also used to be a big house smasher pre-2008, took on his family business, and he was doing tens of millions a year in that business up in Scotland. So he's really got great experience. We ran him through the whole business yesterday. Bear in mind, I only first spoke to him yesterday. We had a load of CVs come through. And he's going to do a shadow day on Friday and be involved in the refurbs meeting as a little bit of an acid test. And then if he's great, he's going to start on Monday. And the idea is I want to flip how and this is where your guys' brains might be really interesting how we think of this idea. With the buy-to-let refurbs, the nature of the work is very, very simple. It's fitting kitchens, fitting bathrooms, it's cosmetic refurbs, it's very straightforward, basically no structural, no building control, no planning permission. It's all really straightforward, right? But the volume is the difficult bit. So it's an operational challenge of allocating resources, keeping things on schedule, and trying to cycle the work as efficiently as we can. So we buy ourselves 12 to 14 weeks to deliver each project, which is ample time. So what we're thinking of doing is instead of treating it site by site and doing weekly site meeting reports of the entirety of the site, instead treat clusters of projects that are geographically located near each other. So say you might have 5 or 10 in this given area, treat them like they're one big site. So we allocate that portion of site for this next quarter of delivery and treat it like a sign-off procedure as if we're doing an apartment scheme. And then internally, we've already got a qualified electrician. We've got a guy with his gas certs. We'll have those guys manage a subcontractor packages of electrics and plumbing. Same with the joiner. They're focused on their packages within that cluster of projects. And then our site supervisors, yes, they can tick off those bits of work, but they're focused more on the multi-skilled work that's required for fixing damp, the odds and sods and grippers and like all that kind of stuff. But then we can have our carpet guys, we can have our decorators all on packages managed almost by like line managers, and they feed back into ops manager, who's then just keeping an eye on program, resource, centralized procurement anyway. And I feel like we can change it into more of like a principal contractor kind of beast, even though it's managing like very simple domestic works. That's my thinking. What do you think about that?
For me, that'd be quite simple. I wouldn't want all the responsibility of having all the line managers. I would have it as a package. So for each one, you take all the things you do on every single property. So if it's a new kitchen all the time, if it's take the Artex off, whatever it is, put skirting boards on, I'd package that up into one product, and then I would go out and say, right, you can have 2 of these a month, 3 of these a month, 4 of these a month, based on your machine. So he builds back, you basically give him the basic package with the anomalies, and then you just build a list of all the additional bits that need doing, and then you internally would go, it needs the main package plus these 4 things. There's the price. Go and do it. And then I'd build the build program around them having 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks to do it, and then have penalties on the back end and a payment schedule based on what they've done. And then and then the more ambitious ones will take on 3, 4, 5 teams and take more of you, and you become a sole agent where you spit out the projects that are ready to go. And they take them from you. Yes, please. They write about the geographics of where they are locally. They write about the internals, their electricians, plumbers, roofers. But out of the back end, you get all the documents you need. Everything's they're all insured for your sites. You've got them exactly where you need them. But you just sell the packages on, and just let them use their network.
Yeah, no, we will sell the packages, but as in it, there'll still be subcontracted price work, built-in frameworks for agreed prices on our product spec and things like that. But the idea is that rather than have a site supervisor managing all those packages, instead, I think we can get more scale out the supervisors and more quality control, because we'd have a professional qualified gas guy who's obviously a plumber and focusing on the mechanical packages, and then we'd have an electrician focusing on the electrical packages, and then maybe
It's not that difficult, mate. You don't need a gas engineer going around every site just checking the gas.
No, he won't be checking on every site, but he's making sure that all those procedures getting signed off, because we will be on about 50 to 80 sites at any given time at the rate of sales we're doing for just those. And I just feel like a site supervisor having to deal with all those methods of work, who's not necessarily qualified in those domains, I reckon that will be a pinch point where quality could get lost. Whereas if it's a specified person in that domain, and they're looking after, say, 80 kitchen fits a month or 80 bathroom fits a month, they'll have a much cleaner understanding of how those things should work, and then audit the those subbies who might be taking.
Your only risk there, Ryan, is that you're introducing a single line of failure there. If that gas engineer doesn't turn up or goes off sick or hands his notice in, and you've structured your team to be reliant on him doing it. There's nothing wrong with having Clark who works at quality control, but Stuart I would agree with Stuart. I mean, you bring in bona fide subcontractors who are gas engineers. If they give you the cert that says it's signed off compliant to building regs, that is what their insurance covers. That is what you're employing them to do.
But you still need someone to prep that work, right? You still need, and I think we'll get more scale out of it if we do it this way, just because like a site supervisor, like who's covering that many sites and looking after that many pieces of work in prepping that site, and what needs to be done in the bathroom. Do we need to move the waste pipe? Do we need to do this and that? Having a site supervisor having to carry all that information across all those different sites, I don't think is scalable. Whereas if you just have someone focused on their package,
it should be a sales team. If you're going there and sending your brother in to look at a property, he should be checking off a tick list, going, he's this. There's your package built. You sell it on to an investor. There's your package and your fixed costs with your bona fide contractors.
You could pull back carpet and the copper's pulled out, or there's
but they'll be on the anomalies. You'd have 2 pages or 3 pages of your basic standout work that would go into your terms of contract, your terms of business with your investor to go, look, we've captured this bit, but until we pull the carpet back, we don't know if the floors are rotten. So that would be a variation. Then there's your cost per square meter or per floorboard, however you want to price it. So all the effort in that model is all at the front end, where the sales guy goes tick, 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 tick. You've got your bases covered. And every time you miss one, you swallow the cost, not the investor, and you add it to your list, and you build your margin in to make sure you can cover those costs.
It is all in the pre-con, and we do as much as we can on the viewings to capture all the costings, and we've built like all the matrices so that they can tick the boxes and capture all the costs they can. But you only get 15 minutes in a viewing. It's just not enough time for them to be able to capture a full survey. So we have to layer into the conveyancing a detailed like survey. And there's so many things that you can miss on a viewing without being intrusive.
Basically, right? Because just what I've learned over the years is there are companies that are already doing this. What you really need to do, like literally, there are companies on refurbishment frameworks that do it for housing associations, where they literally go in and they do 20, 30 refurbs a month, council refurbs. Well, you need to literally go and see how they operate and just mimic their structure, because it obviously works.
Or hire someone that's doing it.
Yeah, or hire somebody that's got that.
Yeah, the operations manager we're bringing in, that's exactly what he did. So he used to manage like 30 domestic refurbs at a time. And this is where we think this, and he came up with all of these challenges. And this is where we think this would be a cleaner way to deal with it by divisionalizing. It's like you would treat a bigger site. Like you'd have a foreman of works, like, or clerk of works for that specific package. So I think it's just a different way of thinking about it, because generally anyone who's dealing with like volume of refurbs, the hardest thing is quality control on the packages, because what we've learned doing the HMOs is no matter how good your site supervisor is, they just miss shit because there's just too much across that many sites to look after for one person's brain and bandwidth. You know what I mean?
You have it on new build sites as well. They're focused on health and safety. They're focused on inductions. They're focused on logistics and deliveries. They've got to do They got to do their weekly program. They've got pre-lets they're involved with. There's so much bandwidth. You're definitely right. That's why there are clerk of works for client side. There are internal clerk of works. There are package managers when it's big enough, or just externals or groundworks or M&E. That definitely is the case. But I think as long as you've got somebody, because this is just as brutal as it is, that can copy the structure of firms already doing it successfully, because this is a proven model, then you are, hopefully it works, and you just have to make some tweaks for yourselves. But if you're having that person experience is important.
The only things I'd add to that, because I think it's all good feedback. I think I like what Stuart does with his lofts is almost built out in pods. So you get a team that get to know each other, work, and can rinse and repeat and be more efficient. I think if you do have a foreman, and that could be, you could work out the biggest package, if that's the kitchen fitting or the bathroom, and go to the kitchen fitter or the bathroom fitter. You're going to run this job. You're incentivized to monitor all the works because you're here every day, and I will pay you time, quality, and cost review, but you get it in a deferred payment structure. So once the tenant moves in, and we've had all of the teething problems, and they've said that everything works, there's no leaks, blah blah blah, we do a final 3-month inspection, and then you get a deferred £1,000 payment to monitor that project, the time, quality, and cost review. And you could do 500 quid for quality, 500 quid for time, 500 quid for cost. And then what you would end up doing is that person would be solely incentivized for always their tracked payments 3 months in. So as you grow, they do more, you do more. They can actually build a very successful sub business. And then one other, I completely agree. Like, find someone that's done it before and look at that model. But one thing I will say, an interesting, I suppose, thought process is, I studied business in A levels, and you talk about batch production, flow production, continuous production, and how you produce things. And this is more product led or construction led on different projects. I worked at a turkey farm who's actually a family friend of ours. They've been in business for probably 50 years, and they produce 100,000 turkeys every year. And it's a really difficult business to manage because every single person wants their turkey within 3 days of Christmas, and they rear the turkeys all year round. And then they've literally got a few weeks to get all of their product onto their customer's desk. So imagine you were getting 100,000 buy-to-lets ready all the day before Christmas. It's an absolute logistical nightmare. But what I learned from working there and sort of helping, while I was a bit younger, but I was in a fairly senior position, because you just used to hire thousands of Polish blokes, basically. They've tried so many times changing how they produce stuff, and they still don't think there's an easy way. And sometimes you have to analyze that you have to do the least annoying or least difficult or least path of resistance way, and there isn't a perfect way. So if you look at various different businesses, sometimes it is a struggle. Sometimes drivers are a nightmare. Sometimes material suppliers are a nightmare. And it's trying to manage being the least path resistance is also because you might think, I've got a great idea, let's do that. But then there might be a weak link that will never, ever make that as slick as you can make it slick. I obviously know your systems focus, your process focus, you rely on tech to do X, Y, and Z so that you don't have to do it or employ someone to do it, which is all well and good. But their production, they tried killing all the turkeys and then plucking all the turkeys and then boxing them all up. They've tried killing them in weight categories and doing them in weight categories. They've tried Like they've honestly tried everything and anything, and it just all boils down to none of it is easy. And that you know, they change it up every year.
The interesting thing is, obviously, I know we're always gonna struggle. So rather, like, as in just volume's always gonna be difficult. So the way we're looking at it is third, third, a third. There'll always be a third of, and that's the goal, is to have a third of sites ahead of delivery, a third of sites that are on track, and a third that are behind. And what we want to build is a procedure of how to rebalance that in program management. And as long as we have a good procedure to manage that balancing, hence buying ourselves a 12 to 14 week expectation on delivery, we should always be able to reprogram with a grace period, because we don't need to be on site for 12 weeks every day. So by allowing a margin of error in the program planning with the client, meaning we don't hit any LEDs or anything of that nature, we should always be prepared for a failure, and then building procedures to re-kilter, as opposed to trying to make it perfect. If anything falls outside the box, we're stuffed. So we're basically preparing for the downside, and that's why I think this process would work. But the key is to have that window. If we only allowed ourselves 4 weeks, all of it would go to shit, because that's when we'd need to adopt Stuart's model or something, where you've got 4 guys making the most of every day and
Like a
planning
pod.
it in that way, like a pod.
Well,
But because we're going to buy ourselves times, we have the time to move it around if we need to.
on fixed price contracts, there's a balance between quality control and speed. You know, so it's Skyloft is limited by the quality of guys I've got. You know, we've got X amount of teams, we can do X amount of lofts, and then based on the teams and relationships. Like, to give you an example, so beginning of the year, one of my fitters has had a labourer, and now semi-skilled labourer, lovely guy, for 5 years. Another team has had a guy for 4 years. These two, one's in their late 30s, one's in their mid 30s, and they are desperate to become their own team. Don't want to take the commitment individually, so we've decided over the Christmas party to pair them up from April. Massive risk in terms of, you know, what can go wrong, but they've proven themselves. They're lovely guys, customers love them, and they're ready for it. But that's taken a long time to sort of accumulate the knowledge and how we work and the systems, and then we're going to piece them together. Then they'll work together for about a year, we've said, before we then break them off again. So from the back of it, we'll get another 2 good teams that have been completely groomed the way that we want to work. They know the qualities we expect. They've been around the culture long enough, and it takes a long time. And then they'll have their own labourers that will come in, and the whole system will start again. You know, people get older. My teams are my age. The backs aren't going to last forever, so we've got to change the model to make sure that they can come into more quality control and run hubs of 2 or 3 teams, and then it sort of makes sense for them to withhold the values we stand for and go and check the work religiously. But then prices increase, there's more quality control, there's more heads. So yeah, it's a tough gig, man. One thing a program won't do is quality control, that's for sure.
Yeah, quality control is key. But the critical difference between these two products that we're talking about is, like, yours is much more complicated. Like yours, as in
No,
your delivery.
it's not, because your volume. You're trying to do 400 refurbs a year. I mean, that, if I tried to do 400 lofts a year, we'd lose the reputation immediately, because it would just be way too thin to do what we do on that sort of volume. It would work if I had 27 areas across the country with 6 or 7 figureheads who had 5 teams. That would be the pyramid model I would try and run. So you've got everyone.
You've got planning and building regulation. We don't need to do that. You've got steels and structural designs. We don't need to do any designs. No designs whatsoever. No measures. Nothing. It's literally, we can send a lad in and go, here's your product spec, mate. You know what to do. We didn't even need a plan. He just makes sure that he'll go in, look at the property. We'll send him a video, and he knows what electrical layout needs to look like. He knows what the plumbing is. No one's in on site with him. There's not a sit in.
So I kind of give
living.
them a package of 16,300 quid. That's what the package is. And these 3 or 4 anomalies are 3,100 and 500 quid. And if they come up, these is what you're getting for it. And then send them on his merry way. And then you just go in and check each stage with photos and videos for documentation. He will manage his electricians and plumbers to do the work on that job, because he won't get paid until that's been signed off.
So difficult.
But it's not. It's just the quality of the guy, the head. You'll probably find that model would work better.
No, yes, we've got a guy that we use as a buffer, and he's been in this week as well to beef him out. So he'll take on 5 of us at any given time. We're going to probably give him 10, but finding him is a dime a dozen.
There's 5, so we'll give him 10. Yeah, so he's going to be stretched at half capacity.
He's beefing out his team at the moment, and he's leaning off of his domestic stuff into our stuff because it's better continuity of work. So we're checking his capacity limits, but he's very, very good. We've tried for years to find other Adams. His name's Adam, and they're just not around. And those subcontractors have cost us more money than us actually delaying sites internally, because there's so many things you then have to check that you're not getting internally on reports and certificates on builder control visits, and you have to check on them.
What if you just threw a load of money at Adam and got him to train and generate a team of pods. So you said, right, you're gonna have 20 blokes underneath you. You need to make them Adams or Eves, depending on their gender. And you create the success out of them, and I'll pay you 20% more than you're on now.
What, as in
Some
hiring?
technicians aren't great managers, I'd say on that.
Yeah,
I
I'd
see you got
agree
to go
with
and
that.
find. You got to recruit other Adams. You got to go and find out where Adam eats, where he drinks, where he shops, where he sleeps, and go and find Adams.
I
That's
know
how you
what
do
Adam
that.
eats. He eats stewed apples.
He does, mate. And they were very
Let me-
good. Yeah.
Let me appreciate the feedback though, boys. So obviously, I take everything with a pinch of salt. My own ideas, the contracts manager's ideas, everything you've said, and ultimately, we got a 3-month process here to test it. And I might be wrong, and we might have to pivot it, and we have to see. What I do know is the capacity is coming, and I got to prepare something for it, which is the challenge. But we'll see.
Hopefully that ops guy, if he's worked in environments where he's been like these refurb frameworks where like because there's companies that do this right across, like national on steroids, right, literally, but obviously for public sector, but they have to follow a methodology, and those staff that work in those companies, I just feel would be quite ideal if he's worked in one, and there'll be Adams all in those that know how to that follow the structure so they can consistently deliver. But hopefully your guy, the only thing that's quite a bit of a red flag, just completely honestly, is it's very rare, very, very rare that you find a good ops guy with that salary that's available.
I've dug into him, so he's the reason being, and he's shown me this and be very transparent with it. But he was working for some Florida guys. They sold him the dream. He delivered loads of stuff for them, and by December, he handed his notice in November, and left not so amicably in December because the Florida guys were trying to pawn off all this work onto him, and he was saying, and he's got different offers around. I've vetted him on LinkedIn, vetted his company house history and the stories he was saying. So he seems legit. But yeah, agreed. When someone of that nature is available, you go, why? Why are you not in work?
Yeah. I think a good idea of what and this is just to anyone out there listening about, like, this is like a project, right? Or like an operational project. What you can do is just leave your phone in the corner of a room somewhere, really like get into your zone in your head and think to yourself, if I ran a business that solely did this, what would it look like? What could be our workflows? What team would I need? And then do one idea and scrap it and think, what could I do differently to flip this completely upside down? So it's not pod work, it's flow work. And you could then do regional people that are running around and they got to visit 50 sites in a day, or you've got one person that manages 5, and you can think about and then what I'd recommend is just split testing it. Run 10 that way, run 10 that way, see how you get on. Because you've got the volume to split test, and that's not something we've touched on yet, but we do split testing quite frequently with our processes in our surveying business. And then you go, that was so much easier. And you go to the surveyor, the client, the manager, and figure out which was the sort of easiest way to work that process. And obviously time, quality, and cost are the 3 things that should be monitored constantly. And split testing is I find one of the best ways to figure out the best solution.
Yeah, exactly what we've done with Skylofts. We do exactly what Jack just said. I took almost 4 to 5 months between getting the phone to ring and selling was, in my opinion, the easy bit. It was building the whole system and process. But obviously, having another business, leaving that, and then setting up again, it was almost like if you took XP Surveys and went, right, let's just scrap it and start again, and I'll give you 3 months to build every single process. It would come out a completely different animal because you'd have the time and the headspace. And that's what I had to build that in when I built Skylofts, which was one of the best things I've ever done. So it's difficult when you've got a moving beast already that's continually churning. Split testing is hard work because you know that one's going to be better than the other, and then you've got to clean up the mess of the one that wasn't as good than the other. So, yeah.
But as long as the team are aware of that, as long as you say, look, we're going to do this. If you struggle with a job, we're here to support you. But we need to.
Well, we're doing that now with you. We're doing that with XP Surveys. We've got a few surveys being done by hand. The team is change management, which no one wants to break something that isn't broken. But I'm looking at doubling the revenue with half the staff, with the main staff. So I need to get twice as much out of the people. So we are split tested now, and the winner will rise to the top. Cream will rise to the top, I'm hoping.
Thanks, guys. All right. Well, look, appreciate that, guys. Last thing, do want to appreciate we're at an hour, but I just want to touch on this because this is an interesting one with what Trump's doing in America. So Trump has put a US ban on institutional property buying, which could drive a surge of UK investment instead. I won't go through the whole thing because basically the synopsis is he's said to hedge funds, PE buyers that you can no longer buy single family homes, but literally banning it. And he spoke about it at the World Economic Forum as well. And the thesis is that that may drive these institutional buyers into the UK market. And mean more and more buyers come in for the build to rent stuff, or buying, new build homes, for buying single dwellings, and turning us even more into a renter's economy. Now, just thinking about that at a high level, what do you guys think is the potential impact to come? Obviously, rising house prices, rising rentals. What do we think, guys? Who wants to take the first step?
I mean, it's exactly what you would do in the UK, isn't it, right?
What's that?
Move it
So
away from the big
institutions
players
buying.
and give it to the small players.
Yeah.
I knew
That is your
you'd love that
business model, right?
article.
Yeah, I love this article, mate. Fuck the institutional buyers. But in a way, we're kind of competing with them in a way, but we're not the owners. It's different. We're building for smaller investor owners, which you could kind of say PE companies and hedge funds do in a way, because they get their money inadvertently in that way. But it's different because the decision making and the aggregate decision making on behalf of shareholders is done by.
It's different because I do it. It's different
because I'm doing it. Yeah, but I don't decide how they have sovereignty over their stock as our clients, but you don't when you're investing in PE firms or hedge funds. It's a board level decision, and how they remunerate their shareholders is just not in the interests of the country or the end user. I just can't see it being. I just think more incentive for institutional buyers to come into the UK is only going to disseminate the sector.
I haven't seen the actual details, but I think what the issue was over there is because obviously they have a lot of capital, like a lot of capital, which they just houses that don't need any work that they could just park money in and rent them out. And I also think that the is a bit different in the US. Jack probably knows better than me. Their gross yields are different to ours. The rents like higher, so it's difficult for even institutional investors do it, but the money that they get, the return on their capital they get in the US for their gross yields, I think is higher than what you'll get in the UK. Is that right?
I don't know, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the weirdest thing about the US is you can't really aggregate the market into one, because there'll be states where BlackRock would invest, and there'll be states that BlackRock wouldn't invest, almost as bad as first world country stability to third world country stability. And that's just because the width and breadth of the states is so drastic. It's kind of difficult to put it in all one encompassing bracket. But you are right. I mean, it's they've got the opposite problems to us. They can fire up houses super quickly. They have all the land in the world that they could almost build on indefinitely within reason. Whereas we're the opposite. We have we're a tricky little position on a site with forever growing population, because I mean, obviously we've touched on migration that we suffer with, but it's that the US don't have that. Well, especially now Trump's sort of swinging his really. So it is completely different. The yields are better. Sorry?
He's sending ice around. Have you seen?
Oh yeah,
that's what Trump's got.
He's an absolute lunatic.
I was just saying, I think it's to do with what he's doing is what he's doing. It's the why for me. Why is he doing it, and why is he talking at Davos? It's basically to stop the house prices inflating, going through the roof. It's to people have to preserve capital, and obviously it's just another thing to try and put limitations on the amount of cash they're going to print in the next this year. Basically, it's going to try and stop institutions just having all this capital and putting it straight into property, which is going to inflate in areas that it's going to take. It's all the limits of where house prices should be. This is a global problem.
For the midterms as well, isn't he? He's prepping for the midterms.
He's prepping for the amount of money, the colossal amount of money they're going to have to print, and it's going to stop those flows going from capital being created into house prices. It's going to take it, because he won't be very popular if your residential houses are too unaffordable, and that's the why I think he's doing it.
That's the key point. Yeah.
in addition to inflationary measures across some markets, I also think it gives him a bit more control. How else is he going to regain control of that without basically, he's attacked a big problem first, which is, obviously Maslow's hierarchy of needs is people need a roof over their head, and who owns the biggest amount of stock. So he's just gone, right, slow that up so we can just sort of rethink and I can regain control of something that I'm currently not in control with, because they're in control, but he's the government. So I think that there's financial incentives to stop obviously what you said, the financial markets getting more difficult and creating a bigger spread, and also control.
You've also got in that same pitch, you've got, he's still very much adamant that the US is going to become the crypto capital of the world. So he just blocked the institutional way of putting money into property to try and keep the public on his side. But I do think that flow of capital is going to go straight into crypto, potentially into Bitcoin. And lo and behold, I mean, you got Brian Armstrong. There's another video at Davos.
He's off now. He's off. I was amazed he did an hour.
It was brilliant.
Stu, let me play it. Stu, let me play it. I've got it here for you. I'll play it.
Yeah.
The video. You ready? All right, here we go.
Go on.
Here we go. This is Brian Armstrong, who's CEO of Coinbase, biggest crypto exchange, and a French central banker.
Explaining to a 6-year-old what the alphabet is, basically.
Here we go.
More independent central banks with a democratic mandate than private issuers of Bitcoin, which have a very useful role. But
Bitcoin is a decentralized protocol. There's actually no issuer of it. So that's in the sense that central banks have independence. Bitcoin is even more independent. There's no country or company or individual who controls it in the world. And so anyway, I think it's a healthy competition because if people can decide which one they trust more, and I think it's actually the greatest accountability mechanism on deficit spending.
So good. It basically sits them down.
They have no idea this colossal tidal wave that is going to crash over their heads when they think that some issuer is issuing Bitcoin. It's like, you've done no homework on the biggest movement in money that's ever hit humanity, and you're on the stage at Davos talking about the money system. It's just they're so naive. It's insane, and it shows that our listeners, we are so early, like so early. This thing is going to
get cannibalized, mate. Those central banks,
they're going to get eaten alive. They're going to be like, what the fuck is this? Because when they lose the banking run, and it's all to do with fractionalized reserve banking, you put £100 in, they lend 90 quid out. It's just insane. But the money you put in originally wasn't yours in the first place. It's so diluted that when the run pulls and everyone loses faith in this system, what's happening to gold and silver right now is definitely happening to Bitcoin. It's just a matter of time.
Bitcoin, baby.
Watch of interest from the sidelines, don't we?
Bitcoin, baby. Well, look, that takes us to hour and 12 minutes. A good podcast. We're trying to make these more structured for our listeners. Make sure you subscribe as well. Please subscribe. It very much helps us in everything we're trying to do. Subsquala. Yeah, hopefully you notice a slight change. We're going to try and make sure we structure these podcasts in a better way, so we're giving you as much juice, nuggets, and contents as we can. Give us questions. If you've got questions, add them into the YouTube comments, because we also want to answer questions on these podcasts. If you've got anything specific or anything broader, just let us know, and we'll dive into it. But yeah, subscribe. Big love. See you next week.
Good week, boys.
Have a good week.
Round up sound. Ooh, yeah.